Hello. Good morning. If you are watching this on a Sunday morning or any morning, good morning and greetings at any other time of the day or time of the week that you may engage with this short, brief background to this morning's worship service and message. So, again, this is a morning brief that I do on Sunday mornings prior to our worship service because there's always so much more that I could say in a sermon than we have time for. And so, this morning brief is to just offer a little bit of either background or some additional thoughts that I would love for you all to take away from this morning's message. So today we are continuing in a kind of a two-part look at a story where Jesus is in the synagogue of Nazareth, and he's reading scripture, and then he starts preaching, and all the people are so amazed by him and so like just in awe, and they're so happy he's there, and they can't wait for him to do all these great things for them. And then there's this moment that there's this like a 180 shift, and the people become very angry to the point that they are going to throw Jesus off a cliff. They are ready to kill him in that moment. And so last week we got to hear the good news that Jesus was preaching, and hopefully, I think we all then kind of stand in awe of him and think, oh, this Jesus, it's so great. He has this mission where he's going to bring good news to the poor, give sight to the blind. He's going to release the captives and proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. And this is really great news. And so today we get the second part, this reaction of the people, and what will be what we'll hear in the message today in this sermon really is how we really have to recognize our own uncomfortableness with what Jesus has said. But what I cannot, and I'm not getting into in any detail in the sermon, is why Jesus is talking about the prophets Elijah and Elisha, and this widow of Zarephath and Naaman the Syrian. So these are specific stories that Jesus names as a way to describe who he is and what he's doing. So yes, he has read from Isaiah and said, good news to the poor, sight to the blind, release to the captives. But then Jesus says that it's going to be for people like the widow of Zarephath and Naaman the Syrian, which are people who are not Jews. And the people in the synagogue that day, as they were listening to Jesus, understood in that moment Jesus was saying he is doing these things for others who are outside of that inner circle of God's chosen people, as they remember themselves as God's chosen people, that God, the Creator, the God of Jacob, Jesus's Abba Father, had a covenant with only the people of Israel, only the Jews. And so when they hear that these blessings and this good news is actually being offered to people outside of the nation, this is the turning point. Because how the people understood that they were going to be able to become free again. The Jews, remember, just under this very oppressive government of Rome. And they are in poverty, and they are just waiting for that Messiah. They're waiting for that one who is going to come and create the nation as a sovereignty once again that will be the most powerful in all of the world. This is how they have interpreted the covenant that God made with Abraham, that your descendants will be many, and so on and so forth. The way they've interpreted that covenant kind of left them with a narrow way of thinking. And so they could only see that God would be at work bringing a blessing to their nation and to no other nation at all. The covenant was only to be with them. And so to hear Jesus say that he was anointed with the Spirit, he was anointed by God to do all these things, and that includes widows and Syrians and people from outside of the circle, it just left them absolutely devastated, really. I mean, there's just when that fall, when the one thing that you think is true and it's the only thing that's true and it's taken out from under you, it really does leave you in despair, at the worst, and maybe uncomfortableness in the least. And that's what we'll be talking about, is this uncomfortableness that the people of the synagogue that day felt after they heard Jesus speak in this way. As I'm speaking this to you now, I think about the ways in which we think about national blessing in our time and in our country as well. And I'm going to make a statement that may make you feel uncomfortable. It even makes me feel uncomfortable to say it in some ways. But, we do want God to bless our nation, and we want God to bless all nations, right? And I've had a friend, a parishioner, and a friend who is married to a man from another nation, and is a wonderful nation. And it was always very difficult at different functions and in the political sphere to hear this idea that God is to bless us and to make us great. And then we rarely say anything about asking God to bless other nations to help them be great as well. And so that was an eye opener for me to hear that. And it's not to say that we don't want God to bless our nation, but how is it that our blessing is absolutely enmeshed, tied to, connected, blessing of all nations and all peoples? So, this also brings up for me just very quickly the idea that having blessing from God makes us more powerful or more important than somebody else. And so we might want to do our own work around thinking about what it means to be blessed, what it means to be God's children, what it means to hear who Jesus is and what he's come to do, and how we work with Jesus within that mission and identity as well, knowing that it only benefits us because it will benefit others. So I think that's just all I want to say this morning about our scripture today. It's not the easiest message to hear. And we just know that God has promised to be with us, and that Jesus is not going to leave us behind. Even if we feel like killing him, Jesus is going to just slip on through the crowd, as we hear in the text today, and go about his work. And so how are we going to follow Jesus in that work? That's really what it comes down to today. So many blessings on you in wherever you are, in whatever situation you're in, whatever time it is, day it is. May this word and this thought be in your heart and in your mind. May it grow, and may this wisdom grow within you and open you up to all the new possibilities that God is showing us today. So have a very blessed day. And my new favorite phrase, borrowed from a professor or a leader of a class that I'm in: may the rest of your day be the best of your day. God's blessings. See you at church.